Topics everyone's talking about online. Share, engage, interact. This is Newsfeed Now.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me on this Friday. A lot of people are starting to pack their bags, hit the roads, or catch their flights for the start of summer vacation. Aaron Nolan could be doing that, but hey, that's why I'm stepping in for him today. So thanks so much for clicking into Newsfeed Now. I'm Suzanne Bruner. For the next 15 to 20 minutes, we are going to talk about some of the most talked about stories in the South. Flooding is one of them, and it's been a huge concern in many areas. For one teen in Missouri, it was more than 7 terrifying hours. She was trapped in the flooded Turkey Creek without anyone in sight. Gretchen Bolander spoke with the girl about what happened during the long wait while she was missing.
I've never been so scared in my whole life. Like, in that moment, I was like, this is the time that I'm gonna die.
It doesn't take long before Olivia Rogers hits a tree. She gets some help when a 6-foot tree branch floats nearby.
So I hold onto the stick because I knew if I was trying to swim, I would get too tired. And so knowing that the stick would float, I just held onto that.
The water is cold, probably around 60 degrees. The current carrying Olivia maybe 2.5 miles when she manages to climb into a tree.
I held onto that tree for about 3 hours, I would say. My feet were still dangling in the water because, the water just keeps rising. It's pouring rain, it's so windy. I see that there's land like close-ish, but I don't think I can jump far enough to make it. And if I don't, that current's just gonna sweep me away again. There were so many times where I was like, I can't hold on any longer, like I just have to let go. But I feel like God just gave me the strength.
Eventually, the current breaks up her tree, forcing Olivia to jump. She makes it to a gravel island where she's now trapped. Hypothermia is setting in when around 6:30 a.m. neighbor Kevin Peterson spots Olivia and calls in the rescue teams.
We're on the phone with someone who has located Olivia Rogers.
I've never seen so many first responders in my entire life. The first person I got to hug was my dad, and it was really emotional. So I didn't think I was ever going to see my family again.
So glad she's doing okay today. Right now, I'd like to bring in Gretchen from Joplin, Missouri. Gretchen, thanks so much for joining us. Watching your story, I can't even imagine what those 7 hours must have been like for her. She says, I never thought I would see my family again. What was the one thing she said kept her holding on and fighting through the cold, the rushing water, and isolation? I know she briefly touched on this, but you got to talk to her even more about that.
She has a fascinating story. We spoke for an extended amount of time. She said that prayer was one of the big things that carried her through, and actually concern for a coworker. She and her coworker Mason actually went into the water about the same time. I spoke with him on another day.
Yeah.
He got rescued almost immediately, but she got swept away so quickly that she really didn't know what had happened to him, and she was very worried for his well-being, even as she's being carried down the river for 2.5 miles.
Wow, that's a pretty far length right there. How did she get trapped in the river in the first place? I know you said that she was with a friend.
She and he had both just gotten off work. They were coming down a hill, and for those of us who live around here, we know that this low water bridge is a place to look for, but it was pouring rain. It was pitch black. She said that it wasn't in her mind, and as soon as she hit that spot, she was in the water. She couldn't see it at all.
Oh, wow.
And Mason explained that her car was swept off of this low water bridge, so she really didn't even have a whole lot of time to react to being in the water. She said as soon as she was in the water, her car started shifting around. She got out of her car immediately and swam over to Mason's car so they could work together, hopefully help keep each other safe. They got on top of his car at one point because of the flooding issues, but it was so insecure they were concerned that it would go underwater and they would be dragged down with it. And so when she tried to swim for it, that obviously didn't work out.
Gosh, and I'm sure their parents are just a sigh of relief, just so glad that both of them are back home. I want to touch on the neighbor here. How far away does this neighbor live, and does he go down that part of the river regularly, or was this a situation of being at the right place at the right time?
It's both. Kevin Peterson lives about not quite 2 miles from the point where she was swept off the bridge as the crow flies. Now, obviously, it's a waterway. It takes turns. He said that he frequently will go down and check flooding levels, but this particular morning he needed to get to work. He said he was not going to go down there. He was not going to turn left. He was going to turn right, and at the last second, for whatever reason, turned left. Went down there, thought he heard something unusual, so he turned the truck off, and then he spotted Olivia, and rescue was made.
Wow, so glad that he was able to do that and he spotted her. 7 hours, such a long time. Glad that there's a happy ending to this story. Thanks so much for joining us, Gretchen. We appreciate your story.
Absolutely.
The one wish of a Middle Tennessee man who died a hero has now come true. His boy received the gift of life, and it's all thanks to a generous donor. Stephanie Langston has the story.
With a smile that dominates his face, it's hard to see the struggle that 7-year-old Drake Barlow's been through.
He's got a big personality.
He's an avid sports fan, a spicy food lover, and a fighter. Every day with him is a day his family never knew for sure they would see.
We didn't know how many days we would have with Drake, and so we just accepted that and just lived every day like it were our last.
Drake was born with double inlet left ventricle.
Meaning that he only had 2 heart valves while we have 4.
At only 9 days old, he had open heart surgery.
The first 240-something days of his life, they were in Vanderbilt. And then they got to go home, and he's had several different operations since then. And for years, he was not eligible for a heart transplant up until about a year ago.
And on April 28th, his family's prayers came true.
That's what his daddy wanted, was for him to have a chance of being a normal little boy like every other boy. And it's bittersweet that his daddy wasn't here to see that. It's bittersweet that his daddy wasn't here to walk him out of that hospital that day. They are just alike in so many ways. Drake walks just like his daddy, and we have very good memories of his dad.
While his dad's heart may have stopped beating, Drake's has just started.
You know, you never know. A heart can reject at any time, but we're hopeful that, you know, he'll have a long life and he'll be an old man one day and be looking at his grandchildren. Feel good?
Yeah.
Feels real good, don't it?
Oh, I love seeing that smile from Drake. And right now I want to bring in Stephanie from Nashville joining us right now. Thanks so much for being on Newsfeed Now. So Drake has just been a fighter from the very beginning. Such a sweet boy. How did you come across this story?
Well, I actually first met Marty, who you saw there in this story, which is Drake's godfather, whenever Drake's father, Eric, died back in February. And we mentioned at the top that, you know, he's kind of been hailed a hero here. He was helping a mother and a son change a tire. And when this truck came by, he apparently pushed them out of the way, saving their lives and hit his head, unfortunately. So at that point, Marty told me all about Drake and told me he was a little boy that I would have to meet this big person.
Yeah. Did they know the donor who gave this heart to Drake?
They have not yet met the donor. That is their plan. They know that this is someone who's about twice Drake's age. So that was a big risk that they took there, but they wanted the extra horsepower. But they believe they're here in Nashville, and hopefully I'll get to come along with them when they get to meet them.
Hopefully, you know, those stories are just so incredible because it's such an emotional time when you see that person who's giving you that extra chance at life, you know. Depending on where you are, the number of donor recipients actually outweighs the number of donors. Did you talk to the family about just maybe the importance of being a donor? Because you have to be very patient with those wait lists.
Yeah, they told me this was something they never had really thought about before Drake was born, and they knew when he was coming into the world that his heart was going to have 2 valves, and they took that risk as well. So yes, they said that there's nothing better than giving the gift of life, and they urge others, of course, to be donors. They're all signed up for themselves.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for sharing Drake's story with us, Stephanie. We appreciate it. Hundreds of thousands of people will be racing to Indianapolis as the Indy 500 approaches. It is already here. And you know what? Many are going to stay at hotels across the city, but some will be taking advantage of a more immersive experience right inside the track. Sierra Heitnight reports.
Race fans are shelling out some cash to stay in the infield leading up to the Indy 500.
Having the tiny houses inside the track gives a lot of opportunities for folks who want to enjoy the festivities all week.
Spectators can rent their very own tiny house with the tracks as their backyard.
Well, it's a little bit different in the sense that you do have air conditioning, you have running water, you have a private bathroom.
They can also stay in a glamping village where they arrive to a pre-set up tent with furniture and can sleep on a real mattress.
At a hotel, when you go back, you shut the door when the event's over and you're not interacting with your neighbor. But out here in this glamping village, everyone comes back from the carb day or the race or the concert, whatever, and they're hanging out with their group.
People that stay in the infield say they have created a new community of friends through the experience.
We came just the 2 of us the first year and we weren't really sure what to expect, and we immediately met our best friends forever. We see the same people every year and it's awesome. It's like one big reunion.
Between the tiny houses and glamping tents, more than 350 people will be staying in the infield.
Last year there was a gentleman that was coined the tiny house mayor, and he would grill everyone's food and everyone kind of congregates together.
A few guys on the grill and everyone's cooking food for everyone. Everyone's handing out beers. It's just a big party out here. It's fun.
Now, that is one way to truly experience the Indy 500. So I want to bring in Sierra, who's glamping from Indy. Oh my gosh, you got to tell me all about this place. I mean, we're talking tiny homes and these glamorous tents. What's it like out there?
I mean, it is absolutely insane. I don't know if you can hear me very well right now. The cars are going by. The glamping tents are right here behind me. And then look at all these people here. I mean, this is what Carb Day is here at the track. So things are really starting to pick up here. I'm going to try to move to a quieter place so I can talk to you.
Hey, that's working, by the way. You holding it like that, we can hear you just fine.
Perfect. Good. So yeah, there's so many people here. This is the really big kickoff when people start to come into the track today. So the people that are glamping and camping, they got to move in yesterday. I got to talk to some of them. They're very excited. And I'll tell you, that experience, it's expensive. Those
I was
glamping
just going to
tents,
ask you, how much are people shelling out for this?
well, the glamping tents start, there's 3 packages. The cheapest one is $1,300 for the weekend.
Wait.
If you want to stay.
$1,300?
Yeah, $1,300 for the weekend. If you want to stay in a tiny house, so that's definitely more luxurious, that'll cost you $4,000.
I guess I'll just go with the tent.
Right, I think I'm going to sit in traffic and drive, I guess.
Wait, I got to ask you, is there like a person limit? Like, is it like 2 people for a tiny house?
So for the tents, they told me that the max it could sleep is 4 people.
Okay.
And the tiny houses, they said they could fit about 4 people in there too, with a queen bed, and then they have a fold-out futon as well.
Wow.
So about 4 people each. So even if you're splitting it 4 ways, I don't know that I'm paying $1,000 to camp.
Yeah, and, you know, you got to take in the factor of it though that it's right next to the track. You don't have to worry about driving. You know, Ubering, and then you've got a mayor, for crying out loud. That's how excited these people are. They've got a mayor who's grilling for you. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, you're definitely paying for the experience, I think. And from what people told me, it's like nothing else. I mean, it's a totally different way to experience race day, and they have a great time. If you're going to pay that and come for 5 years straight, good on you. Good on you.
So is this the first time they've done something like this, or have they done this in the past?
For the tiny houses, this is the 2nd year that the tiny houses have been here. For glamping, this is the 5th year. So those people that I interviewed have been here for all 5 years for the glamping.
Well, no wonder they were just talking about the camaraderie and their BFFs and everything.
Absolutely,
so they get to see everybody every year. Okay, so I can imagine this stuff sells pretty fast. So have they already started planning for next year?
Sorry, what'd you say?
Have they already started planning for next year?
They have started planning. The tickets are not for sale yet, but they say each year they kind of, for the tents, try to get a little bit more space to put more tents in. But they said a lot of people, they give them the first opportunity to, if they want to basically rebuy for the next year, they get first dibs, and then it opens to the public, but they do not last long, a matter of like days when they open it up to the public.
Well, look at that. I'm sure that they just want to keep it exclusive and, you know, don't want to really add more, at least be the first ones to get tickets so they can come back. That's really cool, though. Well, Sierra, I'm glad you got to experience it. That's so fun. Thanks for bringing that story to us live from Indianapolis. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, well, 2 little girls, they are being hailed heroes after a very serious accident in George County, Mississippi. The 6- and 7-year-olds were ejected from a car, but miraculously they were able to flag down help. Katrina Lutich introduces us to the brave pair.
She has 13 staples.
Brianna is left with injuries to her head and arm. Her friend Braylon has a broken arm and leg. But these 2 little girls are being credited with helping get their family and friends help after a major accident. There were 2 adults and 4 children in the truck when family members say Jared Brown's tires and steering locked up last week and he crashed off the side of Highway 613. Brianna and Braylon were thrown out of the truck. When the girls came to, they knew what they had to do.
Go to the road and find help.
They were able to walk up the road through their injuries to flag someone down.
There was a lady in the road
That woman able to call for help to get everyone to the hospital.
And if they wouldn't have done that, there's no telling what could have happened.
Their smarts didn't end there. Brianna was able to tell the woman who stopped to help her mom's phone number to call her and let her know about the accident. Amanda Odom hopes their story can serve as a learning lesson for other parents.
Teach your kids your phone number, address, names, everything, because you never know when something like this will happen.
Right now, I'd like to bring in Katerina from Mobile, Alabama. Katerina, thanks so much for joining us on Newsfeed Now. I want to pick up where that mother left off. So emotional, you know, thinking her little girls did everything right in a really scary situation.
Yeah, it's super scary, and that's really the message she wants to drive home to parents, is make sure to drive home your name, your phone number, so that if these kids are ever faced in a situation where they don't know what to do, the people in the front seat were unconscious, they really had only themselves to rely on, that they were able to go find help and be able to let their parents know what happened.
I mean, you look at the damage. I couldn't even imagine being a 6 or 7-year-old in that and what to do next. I mean, you know, as adults, we're in those situations too, and it really startles us. Like, what do you do next? So, you know, she said, teach your kids a phone number, like we just talked about, which is really important this day and age because, you know, we all have a cell phone, and sometimes we forget our numbers, right? But did Brianna say instinct came in as her mom's number just kind of came in? And I mean, did that just, I guess, slip out of her mouth, say, hey, this is my mom's number, give her a call, or how did that happen?
Yeah, I think at first, you know, their first instinct was to go up and get help, because where this happened, this was really in a rural part of the county, so there really weren't a lot of houses around. So they kind of walked up a little bit. One girl had a broken foot that they walked up to go try to find help. And then once they found someone to call 911 to get first responders, she said, you know, I want to talk to my mom. Will you call my mom? And was able to give the woman her phone number.
Wow, that's so sweet. I'm so glad that they were able to reach out and talk to that mother. How is the recovery going? I know they've got some time to heal.
Yeah, that's right. So the little girls, one has 13 staples in her head. They'll be taken out in a few weeks. The other little girl has a broken arm and a broken leg, so that'll take some time. Now, her dad was actually the driver in the car, and so he is still just got out of the ICU in the hospital. He still has a long road to recovery, had several surgeries. So, you know, they're raising money for medical expenses. We have that on our website to help out in any way they can.
All right, Katerina, thanks so much for bringing us that story.
Thanks.
And here's an inspiring story for you on this Finally Friday. A Memphis teen is in the national spotlight after earning $3 million in scholarships and becoming his high school's valedictorian. Here's the thing. He earned all this cash, all while facing homelessness. Rebecca Butcher met the young man who's inspiring young minds.
It's just mind-blowing to me.
In a few words, this recent graduate tried to describe the whirlwind of attention he's getting. Tupac Shakur Mosley, recent valedictorian of Raleigh Egypt High School, is leaving with a 4.3 GPA and $3 million in scholarship offers.
And we're just so thrilled that he chose TSU, and he's the epitome of what the young men should be.
Dr. Glenda Glover, TSU's president, traveled to Memphis personally to take him back to Nashville. There, Dr. Glover says she will make sure Mosley will be given a place to live and a free meal plan.
It's only HBCUs that I think that I believe would do something like this, of this caliber, to actually, for the president herself to drive down to one of the schools to actually assist that student personally.
But the road to graduation wasn't an easy one. After the recent death of his father, Mosley became homeless. But with his support system, he persevered.
Your location is not a limitation. It's extremely important, and I would say vital to a student's success and future, when they know that they have that teacher in their corner to constantly support them throughout anything that they face in life.
At TSU, Mosley plans to major in electrical engineering, a passion he said he's had since he was a kid.
I love the smile that I received after helping them out, so I knew that should be my career. That's my true passion in life.
Some really amazing words there from Mosley. Congratulations to him. Wonderful thing that he's doing right there. Mosley plans to come back to Memphis to inspire students back home again. He said that was his passion, so great to see him continue that. Thanks so much for joining me on Newsfeed Now. If you're traveling this 3-day weekend, have fun and be safe. We will see you next week.